Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and just wanted to do a lesson on class factories. So this is the whole concept of a factory is just sort of a function or a class that builds out objects for you. So we know class is already meant to build objects, but sometimes, if you just let people create new instances of the class directly, they'll do all sorts of weird things you don't want them to do. So what you do is you create another class or another function that kind of controls the creation process, the factory. Okay, so let's just say we're going to do not const, class car. So we're going to do class, maybe not car, let's do class widget. Okay, and then that's that. Class widget, we'll fill it in as we go along. And then we do class Widget Factory. Okie dokie. Now what's going to happen is that we don't want people who use necessarily our library to create widgets directly, because we want to control what their options are when creating a widget. Okay, so for example, we'll create a constructor for our widget, and you'll be able to choose a color of the widget. Okay, and whatever this dot color of the widget will be whatever you pass in. But the problem is if I just let them use the widget constructor, I say, hey, create a new widget, equals a new widget. And what's, if you're not familiar with the whole term widget, is just a sort of placeholder for a thing that exists. So this factory builds a thing, a widget of a thing. I can be like purple, make it a purple widget. Problem is, maybe we don't make purple widgets. So giving people that ability to make purple widgets is too much. Okay, so we want to limit the options. Okay, so in my widget factory, we might sit there and create a, in this case, you don't need to have multiple widget factories, so I may decide to use the widget factory and give it static properties. So we'll say static make widget, or make. Okay, and then here you would pass in a color. And then we maybe just pass in a switch here with color. And basically what it'll do is, like, if it's case red, then it'll return you a new widget that's red. Break. Case blue, then it'll return you a new widget. That's blue. Break. Okay. And then default case console.log. We don't sell. Actually, let me just do the backticks. We do not sell color widgets. Okay, so now if I have to go through this whole make widget process, then I can do this. So widget, const widget equals widget factory blue. Now console log the widget, console.log the widget. And when we run that code, rid of some of these extra terminals. There we go. Let's bring this back down. And you'll see here, widget factor is not a thing, so widget factory. Save. Let's scroll back down. Class constructor widget factory cannot be invoked. Oh, wait, no, that should work, but I actually have to invoke the function, don't I? Widget factory dot make. There we go. Because it's a function called make. It's static, so I don't have to use new, but I gotta actually invoke the function. So there we go. Let's say I got a blue widget. Okay, a nice blue widget. But now if I make it light blue, they don't sell light blue widgets. So let's see how it reacts. We do not sell light blue widgets, so my widget's undefined because I wasn't successfully able to buy something. So that's great, good. Now I've made it where now we can only create widgets of the colors I want to create. That's the beauty of a factory. I can control the creation process. Okay, now let's take this one step further. The problem is this class is still kind of floating around and people still have access to it. So if someone goes and reads through my code, they'll probably kind of figure out that they can do like new widget and then start making widgets that I don't want them to make. So how can I do this? How can I make this more protected? So what I can do is actually, instead of having that class be standalone, I'll make it a static property of Widget Factory. So static widget equals, okay, because classes are just a value like anything else. I can just pass the class. I don't need to put a name here anymore. So it can just be class. So widget equals a class with these details. And just going forward, I just have to do widget factory dot widget. And actually, I want to make it private so that you can't access it from outside. Because even then, people will still be able to go new widget factory dot widget. I don't want that to happen. I want it private, so you can only access it within. So we have to use our little hash that makes it private. So let me just copy this over. Save. So now I can create a widget. So let me go back and make this blue again. So let's make this blue. So see, I can create a widget object that it's creatable, but I cannot directly create it. So if I try to, let's see what happens. Const special widget equals widget factory. So if I read the source code, I'd be like, oh, well, I can just access the thing this way. Dot widget. Okay, and then we'll say light blue. I want to make a light blue widget. And you can't stop me. So I'll just use the new keyword here because it's a class and it's not a static thing. Okay, so I sit there and go, I want to create this. It'll stop me because, see, it's a private field. So I can still use widget, but I have to use it within the class. So this makes my factory a little bit safer. So the only way for me to create a widget now is through the widget factory. So I control the widget creation process. Okay, and that's generally the intention with sort of like this factory pattern. The idea is that yes, there's this object you can create. You can create, widgets can happen, but they can only happen if you go through the process that I specified and use the functions that I want you to use to make it. This way you can't make things that I don't want you making, so you don't break my code. Okay, because the thing is that the more flexibility you give people who are using your code, the more likelihood they're going to break it. So you want to create all the proper checks. You want to kind of limit the possibility of doing things that are never going to be something they should be able to do, and stuff like that. And so this kind of, again, making use of private properties and whatnot and static functions, like what I did here, is a good pattern for doing that. So again, we've made it where you can create widget objects, but you can't do it without going through the widget factory, which will only let you create blue or red widgets. Okay, there's just no way with the way I've coded it, unless you change my source code, but then you're working with a different library. So that's the concept of a factory. I'm creating some sort of way to make the object that controls the creation process. Okay, I mean in this case it's really just a class with a private property that's just another class and a function that you can a static function. Okay, and this just kind of shows you sort of a practical application of a lot of these things that we've learned in the previous videos on object-oriented programming in JavaScript. So my name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.